Story 1. Green burial in either a cardboard coffin or a wicker basket, with a generous tree planted over me. There are several green burial places within 20 miles of where I live in the United Kingdom. My organs will have been harvested beforehand, those which can still be donated. Story 2. I would like my remains spread over Disneyland from a helicopter. I also do not want to be cremated. Story 3. I want my body donated to the local medical school. I have worked in research and cadavers are a critical teaching tool. Story 4. Just throw me in the river and treat yourself to a weekend trip with the money you would have wasted on that garbage. Story 5. Plastified because I already have a couple of interesting things going on inside me, including an artificial hip and multiple sclerosis. I assume by the time I am done, more interesting things will be added because you do not die from being healthy. Story 6. I want to be scattered on Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro. I do not want to be cremated. I do not like Rio. Story 7. Donated or cremated. None of the traditional funeral arrangements. Not even an eco-burial. No headstone or anything left. Story 8. Human composting. Unlike cremation, I can be used as soil instead of my family scattering my cremated remains. Cremated remains are mostly inorganic and can sometimes be harmful to plants due to higher pH, but generally not significantly, especially when mixed with soil. I also want my organs donated first. I am not against cremation. I am happy that many people choose it. It is an option as well as burial and other legal methods for human disposition. This is just what I personally would want for myself. However, if my family wants to do the complete opposite, that is okay with me. I love the idea of giving back to nature. Story 9. I used to want to donate my body, but some family members learned that grandma's body was used to test explosives. Then, locally in the city where I live, a cadaver facility was closed down because people were making sculptures and sewing random body parts together. No, I would rather be turned to ash. Story 10. Cremated. I worked in conjunction with the funeral business for a long time. I do not want my corpse fluffed and stuffed and then put on display for people to gawk at. Story 11. I want a Viking funeral. However, I do not think it is legal in the United States to shoot flaming arrows at a dead body on a small boat. Story 12. I want to be composted and mixed with seeds native to the Appalachian Trail. Turn me into seed balls and place me at every trailhead from Georgia to Maine. I am coming home and I am never leaving again. Story 13. I want to donate my organs, then have the rest cremated, and have my ashes buried under a tree. I want to be useful to someone when I die because I have felt useless my entire life. Story 14. Cremated. Part of my ashes to be placed in an urn in the family area of the cemetery. Some ashes made into fireworks. The rest to be shot into space if that is still an option. Story 15. On the very day I die, the last of my desires is that you take my broken body and commit it to the fire. When the fire is finished, scrape the ashes into a tin. Take them down to London's drinking reservoirs and throw them in. Story 16. Cremated and scattered. If my parents' deaths taught me anything, it is that I do not want to be a forgotten stone in a field somewhere. Scatter me in a place I loved, and if people who knew me happen to be nearby and have a fleeting memory of me, I call it a win. Story 17. Cremated. There is enough land wasted on graveyard space where people just rot and decay in coffins. I will be cremated, and anytime someone goes to that place, if there is anyone who cares or remembers me by then, they will think of me. I never understood the need to visit the actual burial site. It does not make a difference to the deceased. Someone can think of you at home, while driving, or at a cemetery. They do not have to be at the physical location. You remain in their memory regardless. Story 18. Cremated. I think burial is too expensive and a waste of space. Ashes are organic material and can fertilize the soil, so give me back to the earth. Embalming and burying in a cement box is far from what nature intended. Story 19. I want to be cremated, and I will include in my will that I want my son to scatter my ashes on the beach. I am on my way to find my favorite beach for this reason. Story 20. cremated as cheaply as possible. I told my children not to spend money on an urn, just use one of the random Danish cookie tins we have around the house. Story 21. Cremated and 1/3 of my ashes scattered at Peninsula State Park in Wisconsin, 1/3 at Point Beach in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and the final 1/3 in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Why? Because I do not want to take up space on the earth after I am dead, and I do not want people eventually digging me up or unnecessarily touching me. I do not want a funeral, viewing, or any other ceremony. Story 22. Donate any organs. Donate the rest to science if they want it, then cremate the remainder. My soul is not my body. If others can benefit from what remains of my physical form, that is my wish. Story 23. Ashes spread on my family's mountain property. Either it is a way to rejoin my grandparents, brother, and parents in an afterlife so we can haunt and scare our descendants for generations to come, or I just get returned to the dirt. Either way is fine with me, although I am really excited about the haunting part. Story 24. That is up to the people who need to mourn me. I will be dead and could not be bothered, I imagine. I just want my loved ones to choose what gives them the most peace. Story 25. I'm not sure yet. I've always liked the idea of being a tree, those things where they mix you with seeds or a sapling. Or it would be medical science. I hope I can be of some use to someone. So far, I haven't been much use to anyone in life, but maybe in death. Story 26. Fun fact. When I was a child, maybe 12 years old, I read a book where someone was cremated. I had never heard about cremation before, but it was explained. Unfortunately, in my language, cremation is written something like cremation. So I have an image in my head of the poor dead girl covered in whipped cream before the body was burned. Anyway, I want to be buried. Story 27. I wish sky burial was legal here. Lay my naked body out in the woods somewhere. It is the most natural thing. Story 28. It depends on what is available in my state when I die. Ideally, I would like to be composted, and I am also interested in water cremation. While there are bills to legalize them now, they are not legal yet. Green burial is legal in my state, so that is what I would choose if I were to die tomorrow. I am also an organ donor, so that comes first. A quick note for people who want their cremated remains to nourish plant life. Please do your research. Cremated remains are not the same as ashes from wood. They are mostly pulverized bone fragments, which are not very beneficial to the soil, and may even harm plant life if they are not properly treated. If you want your body to nourish the earth, the best way to do that in most states is green burial. Try to advocate for the legalization of human composting, often known as recomposition. Story 29. I want to lie on a bed of explosives on a raft, pushed out to sea, and detonated so my body can be atomized and returned to nature. Story 30. I want to be fed to marine animals like a sky burial but in the ocean. If that is not possible, a regular burial at sea will do. Story 31. I tell people I want to be cremated and placed in a gender reveal pauper. In reality, I want to donate my body to a medical school. Both of my grandparents on my father's side did that. Once the school is done with the body, they cremate it for free and have a very nice ceremony for the family. Story 32. Cremation. I have spent my entire life living among plants and animals. It is only fitting that I return to a state that helps this process continue. Story 33. Donated. I just think it is the right thing to do for me anyway. I am 67 but may still have some pieces and parts that could help someone. Story 34. That liquid cremation sounds good to me. Supposedly more environmentally friendly than traditional cremation. Alternatively, a funeral pyre for style. Story 35. My body shall be part of what it once was. Leave me to nature. I know Denmark does not allow it, but I want to be buried in a forest somewhere with no religions or humans, just me and nature. Story 36. First, donate my organs if needed, and then donate them either to science, if applicable, or to medical students to practice on me. Story 37. Since I will not have any use for my body after I die, I will donate it so it can be of use to someone else. My driver's license lists me as a donor. Whatever remains, I would want turned into mushroom food if possible. I would rather not waste fuel and release pollutants through cremation. Traditional burial is a waste of space, usually arable land. Story 38. No preference. Funeral arrangements are not for you, they are for your family. However, whatever gives them the most closure is totally fine. If nobody cares when I die, just leave me in the woods. Story 39. All viable organs should be donated to someone who needs them. The rest can be donated to science or cremated, and my ashes scattered on a beach somewhere. Story 40. I will be taxidermied to a cemetery bench like a Ronald McDonald statue with a smile stitched to my face. Story 41. I want my remains to have as little negative impact as possible. If there is something worth studying about my remains, they can be donated. Natural burial is acceptable only if it can be used to establish a protected area where I am buried. Otherwise, water cremation is preferable due to its relatively low energy costs. If my loved ones want to plant a tree at the cremation or burial site, they are welcome to do so. I will not mind because I will be deceased. Story 42. I have donated my body to science. I dislike the idea that something as unnecessary as a funeral should cost money and resources. This way, something good comes from my death, however small. I also believe that being reused by nature is a legitimate option, but often people cannot be buried in nature. I find it strange that people have emotional attachments to their future dead bodies. They will be dead, not existing. I also think religious beliefs are harmful. I understand that some people are indoctrinated and cannot help it. I am mostly judgmental toward Western people who know about Darwin and how many religions there are. As a species, we are too indulgent with our magical thinking. Story 43. Donated with the specific stipulation that my skeleton, with its wonderfully crooked spine because I have scoliosis, be donated to a junior college that cannot afford a real human skeleton. Story 44. I want my body to be donated at no cost to my children, so they do not have to bear any expenses, and it can contribute to something good. I also think it would be meaningful to be cremated and then planted with a tree with a plaque as my tombstone. Over the years, this could create a forest of ancestors. My brother said he wants his ashes to be made into fireworks. Story 45. I want to be buried naked in a shallow grave, face down, with my buttocks in the air. People can use me as a bike rack. Story 46. I would not really care, to be honest. That is up to my family on earth. My spiritual self will be living it up in the next life. Story 47. Cremation is what I want. It costs less, and there is no need for my body to take up more space than necessary. I want my loved ones to visit and enjoy a few of my favorite spots and leave some of my ashes there when they do. Story 48. Donate my body to be used as best as possible. My final gift can include corneas, skin, bone marrow, kidneys, and heart valves. Anything. Cremate the remains. I am not in there anymore. It was a great body, and I am really lucky to have had it. Story 49. Donate any organs still viable and worth donating, then cremate via alkaline hydrolysis. This process uses water instead of fire. Scatter my ashes in the Pacific Ocean. I have always been connected to the ocean. I am a scuba diver, and sharks are my favorite animals. Story 50. Originally, I wanted to be cremated and turned into a diamond to be the creepiest family heirloom ever, but it is very bad for the environment. Now, I want anything useful donated and whatever is left composted. Story 51. Buried in a cardboard box with a tree planted over me. I want to become a tree when I die. Science and medicine are welcome to take any used parts first. I will not be needing them anymore. Story 52. My husband passed away 5 months ago. Back in November, he told me he wanted to be cremated. He had cancer and knew he was dying. I did not understand why until he made a comment about his appearance. He had lost so much weight and did not want people to see him like that. For the same reason, I want to be cremated as well. It is easier for family, reduces funeral service costs, and people do not have to stare at a deceased body. Story 53. I want them to empty me out and plant a tree in me so I can help feed a tree. I have told my parents I want to be a weeping willow because it is both my favorite tree and a joke about my depression. Story 54. I want to be cremated and turned into a spooky tree. I will come back spiritually tied to the tree and haunt people for fun. Story 55. $20,000 to $25,000 for a funeral plot and services. Less than $5,000 for cremation and services. That made the decision for us. Story 56. I told my wife to strap me to a rocket and send me in the general direction of Mars. If she cannot afford to do that, please strap my ashes to a Mexican rocket firework and send me as far away from this forsaken rock as possible. I do not want these molecules to be recycled. They are one of a kind and deserve to be recycled by something far greater than the trash here on Earth. She understood and wants to go with me now. Story 57. Assuming there is anything of value left for transplant, part me up to be passed around like goodie bags at a fancy event. Then, whatever is left, cremate and scatter in my favorite place in the world, which is not legal, a wilderness area in a national forest, but forget it, you only die a few times. Story 58. Donate my body to my local university. I am not sure if I will sign up for specific research, for the body farm, or for education yet. Story 59. Donate healthy organs to someone in need. I have no concern for the remainder. It can be discarded. Story 60. I want to donate my body for medical research and the development of medicines and explosives. Story 61. Bury me. My family has a large family plot in a cemetery, and my plot is already purchased. It is kind to think of resting eternally surrounded by my relatives from generations past. Story 62. We are planning to be cremated and have our ashes buried in the family plot my great-grandfather purchased in 1927. It will be simple, with no funeral, just a family gathering at the cemetery. I see no benefit to an expensive farewell. This is what my grandmother and mother did. Story 63. Cremated. I am being put to rest at Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania, as I am an Army veteran. I chose cremation instead of a gravesite. By the time I am gone, being 68 now, there will not really be any family to come to my graveside anyway. I do not know the full reason, but I decided cremation would be okay for me. Story 64. I want my organs to be donated to someone who needs them, and I want the rest of my body to be cremated. I would like someone who loves me to use a necklace with my ashes. Story 65. Donated for military use could be practical. Maybe cremation if my family prefers it, but getting buried is very expensive for no reason, so not that. Story 66. Science. Then cremation. Science because they need bodies to study, and I am a science enthusiast. Cremation is practical. There are so many graves and so much land taken by graves. Nobody cares after a generation. Story 67. Well, let's see. $10,000 for a traditional funeral or $1,000 for a cremation. That is a tough decision. I think I will choose cremation. The only concern I have about that is leaving this crazy earth in fire. Story 68. I think cremated. My mom had horrible dreams about being buried alive. She made me promise I would cremate her and even had me sign a letter in writing. She said the nightmares stopped after that. I spread her ashes at one of her favorite fishing and camping spots. The lake was low, and the area was full of purple flowers, lilacs, which were a favorite of hers. I love you, Mom. Story 69. It says rest in peace, not pieces. No donation, no cremation. Buried most likely, that is, if they can find my body. Story 70. Donated. My body is ravaged. My neurosurgeon says any medical school would want what is left of my body when I am done using it. Story 71. Cremated and inurned with my wife, wrapped in a lap blanket because it was one of her final requests, and I promised I would make it happen. Story 72. Buried how I died. Nothing artificial or added to my body. I want to be my genuine self until the end. Story 73. I used to say donated until I read a book about it and realized that getting my head chopped off and used as plastic surgeon practice, being a crash test dummy, dropped from a skyscraper, or left out in the sun to rot was not really what I had in mind. I romanticized what donating your body to science meant. Story 74. I want my lungs to be preserved and used as an example of why you should not smoke. If anything is salvageable, take it, and the rest of me I want to be laid on a bed of moss where the animals, bugs, and various microorganisms can consume me. Put the bones in the trash. Story 75. I have many surgical scars on my legs, knees, back, and armpits. I hope aspiring doctors see me and think, this person went through a lot and persevered. Story 76. I want to wander into the woods on a snowy night, lie down in the snow, and fall asleep. After I pass away, I hope animals that need nourishment eat my remains. Story 77. I want to be cremated because I want to be completely destroyed when I die. I do not want any trace of me left. Story 78. Buried and possibly plasticized or have my brain stored in formaldehyde. If there is any chance of future people restoring me to life, I want to take it. Story 79. I do not care. I will be dead. Please do not bury me because that is a waste of money and land. However, if my daughter chooses to donate my body instead of cremating me, that is acceptable. Story 80. If possible, donate organs, then be cremated. It takes up less space, and I like the idea of my family having me with them or getting to sprinkle part of me in a place I like. Story 81. I would like to be buried because it suits my personality. I am not a flamboyant person who goes up in flames. I am a person who quietly rests in peace. Story 82. Cremated. The remaining people that I love can do whatever helps them. I incorporated my mother's ashes into glass objects. They were given to my family to help them heal and keep her with them. Death is about the people who remain. When I die, I want them to do what helps them most. Story 83. I want to be buried, but I am a Hindu, so I do not know how I am going to convince my family when I am dying. Maybe I will have to insist that it is my last wish. The reason is simple. I want my body to remain intact for years after I am gone, as I believe every person should leave something behind when they die. Secondly, I do not like the idea of being cremated, even after death. Story 84. A friend of mine died 2 weeks ago. He was cremated, and today everyone who wants to is invited to a local bar to celebrate his life, as it was his wish. I want that too. Story 85. Buried and being burned scare me. I do not know. I feel like I might experience that. Donating my body is a pass. I just want to rest. Story 86. Personally, cremation. I do not feel like my body is worth paying for a grave, but I am fine with whatever my relatives want. I will be dead, so it is not really up to me. Story 87. My will states that my sister must cremate me and turn my ashes into a diamond. She may do whatever she wants with the diamond. Story 88. Cremated. The idea of something that looks like me was me, but is no longer me, just kind of rotting away over a long period, is really unsettling. The idea of it being burned is not comfortable either, but it does not bother me in the same way. Cremation feels like ripping the bandage off, kind of. Story 89. I want to be dropped in the ocean. It is illegal, so I will probably do it myself if I get the right opportunity. Story 90. Sell me off for organ and tissue donation, followed by cremation or composting. I prefer cremation, but I am also okay with letting my remains decompose for future use. Big no to burial. The idea of just rotting in a box or crypt is a waste of time and space. Story 91. Donated as much as possible. With what remains after that, no preservatives added. If not straight to composting, burn it, bury it, drop me in the water, I do not give a flying care. But no box, no drawer, no urn. Why? I am done with the body and I hate for stuff to go to waste. Story 92. Donate my organs, whatever is needed by someone else. If I have passed, another person could live a full life with what I give. Story 93. Donated. Let someone else benefit from what can be learned. Cremation is not good for the environment. Burial is too expensive. Story 94. Either donated or cremated. Dealer's choice. I assume donated because I have the organ donation marker on my license. I do not see any real purpose in burying. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.